Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now? We have just played Hibs in the league and we have drawn 0-0. This has been a game that normally we expect against Hibs is a wee bit more, back and forth and a game of fine margins, really played on the edge. And this game was very unrecognisable in terms of playing Hibs, how the game normally goes, and really what we've seen from Celtic in a lot of different ways. This match had a lot of positives in it. There was a lot of good stuff in this game, particularly in the first half, which gave me a lot of reason to believe that we were going to excel and ascend as the match went on, and ultimately came out with, a really good performance, the 3 points, and hopefully a really fun video to get stuck into today. And sadly, I don't think we're going to be able to deliver on all of that. No 3 points were collected, no goals were scored, of course. But in the video today, we will break down everything we've seen in the match, because I do think there was a lot of positive evolutions on some of the stuff we've seen already so far this year, as well as a few new takes on some different bits and pieces with the attack, the defence, and a few other bits and bobs in between. At any point in the video, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and get into the comment section on this video and let me know what your big takeaway feelings are from the game. Anyone that underperformed, anyone that stepped up and really were one of the positive contributors is probably the best way of saying it. We can't quite call them a match winner, can we? As well as that, we'll go through player ratings and all that other good stuff, guys. But yeah, get into the comment section, like, subscribe, share, retweet, all that good stuff. And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it, because we did a lot of content in the build up to this match, the aftermath of the Europa League, as well as CeltsAreHere being invited to the press conference ahead of this match, previewing the game, thinking about the squad management, the rotations that might happen, and really where some of the solutions might be to some of Celtic's problems. And with the starting 11, I've got to say there was one or two surprises in it. I think we were all kind of on the fence on the Friday show with would it be Ralston or Donovan. It was a real coin toss effort, but it was Ralston that came in. We all expected Arnie Engels to come in for Rio Hatate, but I do not think we expected to see Luke McCowan get the nod and starting in midfield here over probably Ben Negren is the way it's panned out. Alongside Ralston Maeda, who came off at half-time in the Europa League, and Brendan basically told me in the press conference he was going to play right wing, but I didn't think he meant this weekend. With Rodgers also citing that he had an ankle issue he's been taking care of or whatever, I thought this was maybe just going to be setting him up for him to have the same shift that Hatate did, which was on his couch this afternoon. But no, Maeda came back in to start on the right hand side, and I think that's probably as good a place to pick up as any, because the right hand side for me is one of the key areas of the pitch in the first half where we got a lot of joy and where we really did dominate the game and create a lot of chances from. Anthony Ralston was very much under the microscope, coming in for everyone's new hometown favourite hero, or homegrown favourite hero, Colby Donovan, and I thought Ralston did a pretty decent job. Never really went over and beyond Maeda in terms of like overlapping and that kind of thing. Like, don't get me wrong, he was up here to support him, to let Maeda drift inside, because that tended to be the most common move that he was making on this side of the pitch, but more often than not was just kind of coming up to shield more this midfield three away from their attacking two, as we kind of camped Hibs into their own half. But what we had here with Ralston, Maeda and Engels for periods of the game was a little bit of get the old playbook out from when Matt O'Reilly was here, and Dyson had to play on the right back then, didn't he? And it felt like we were just kind of going back to a little style of play, a little sequence and pattern that we used to have a few seasons ago, and it seemed to click in quite well quite quickly. Dyson seemed quite comfortable enough on this side of the pitch, although nothing really came from it. And Engels, I think, like, as much as Dyson, it was nice to have him on the right hand side here, just doing what he does, tucking inside if the ball was on the left, and if it is down the right, he can just run this channel and try and play a ball across goal. And having two wings, with Dyson doing this on one side, and obviously we've started Tuneke in this game, who was against Josh Mulligan, again another really difficult opponent for him to be faced up with after So Young-woo in the midweek. That's not really something we've had in the front line this season so far, as symmetry, has been really dangerous potentially on both sides of the pitch. And that definitely did give us, variety, and, Hibs had to cover us on both sides, made their job extra tough, didn't it? But where I really think that the catalyst was here for the good play that we had was the midfield. Now, very early on, I think everyone can see McGregor played an absolute blinder in this game. He was receiving so many balls on the half turn. He was driving through the middle of the pitch, either carrying the ball or moving the ball straight through to someone like McCowan or into Engels. And I think he's seen some content this week, because we just got far less of the trying to land an airplane on the pitch malarkey. And when he did get the ball from the centre backs, rather than giving it to the centre back and saying you give it to the right back, so much more often he was just playing it out to the full back or to the midfielder himself. And that's the McGregor we want to see every week, because he wasn't just doing this in a deep lying position, but because the rest of the team, again, we have seen this kind of development since Kelly, Partick Thistle, maybe even a little bit in Europe, where There's less of a gravitational pull towards McGregor from the back line, and we can get the ball into Saracchi a bit quicker. We're getting the ball into Ralston and down the right hand side a little bit quicker, meaning we get McGregor further up the pitch later on in play. If he sees an opportunity, he sees some space to invade, he was going up there and he was really affecting the play, particularly down the left hand side here. And whenever he did, you would notice Engels just kind of tucking back into the centre just to kind of hold that space for him. And we had, McCowan, unlike Hatate, never really drops into these pockets here. McCowan was very much an attacking left midfielder all the way through the game, but McGregor being quite free to be his best self, which is what we're all about here, and McCowan holding the fort kind of up top. Engels had a really interesting role in this team where in the first 5-10 minutes he was over on the left hand side quite a lot. The remainder of the game we found him out here quite often, but any time the ball was with wide players and he couldn't be a part of the play, or it was on the left hand side of the pitch, you would see Engels being really close to Iheanacho, almost like a second forward. And Engels, I thought, put in a fantastic shift today with him and McCowan, because normally we have Engels on the left and McCowan on the right when they're playing. But I think with maybe the evolution of the wingers that we've got, and now Iheanacho, if you think about the way that they can cross and they can pass with being right-footed and left-footed, we got some lovely over-the-top balls from Engels with his right foot coming in at this angle, and McCowan was also chipping balls into some dangerous areas with his left foot in this sort of trajectory as well. Maybe from a little bit deeper. McCowan was quite good at doing this type of pass to maybe switch the play a little bit more all the way over to Dyson Maeda rather than directly into the box like Arnie Engels was doing. But having them feed into the centre area, feed into the middle of the box rather than the way they normally do when they're on the other side of the pitch, for me it just played much more into Iheanacho. And I know all these lines kind of come into the centre of the pitch anyway, but with these inverted ones you're looking to get the wingers into play, and this is more suitable to having your Dyson Maedas coming in off the left and Nicholas Kuhn's coming in off the right. Whereas with Iheanacho being the striker through the centre and Maeda's on the right, Tuneki's on the left, having these balls almost being like early crosses for a target man and having a secondary striker potentially coming in, if you're thinking about McCowan, with Engels joining up here, or even Dyson Maeda especially, because a lot of play did go down the left hand side. I think the midfield worked absolutely fantastically well. Now I must say, in the same breath, I think Hibs were minging, absolutely minging in this game. I think Partick Thistle were a way better side at trying to threaten us and trying to take something from the game than Hibs were. This back three, this 3-5-2, as you know, becomes a back five very quickly when we're attacking them. Josh Mulligan, huge credit to him. He did a good job of keeping Tuneki quite quiet in this game. And McGrath was a bit more of a free-range attack-based player. The Arnie Engels did a really good job of just man-marking whenever we didn't have the ball. But between Barlasser here and Chaiwa, they just made this box of five in the middle of the pitch. And with having wing-backs as well coming into here, and then McGrath filling into pockets depending on where McGregor went, or Engels, that type of thing, they just really packed the middle of the pitch. And when we were playing these balls and when we've got this space to try and attack, it was very difficult to try and get somebody on the end of chances, which is why we needed somebody like Engels to be coming in support of Iheanacho if the ball was coming in from the right, or really from the left ultimately. And because they were so deep, normally the two strikers that the opposition will have, in this case it was Bowie and Boyle, will counter-attack and be quite threatening down the channels and all the rest of it, but the two of these guys never really got a sniff at anything at all. And I think as I set the board up and we're talking about the game, particularly the first half at the sort of stage that we get to at the moment, Saracchi for me has been, I said when we signed him, because I'd watched little bits of him previously, this guy is like Uruguayan KT, and I think you've really seen that in a big way. This guy just is like a dog with a bone. He just does not let anything go. He's happy to cross. He was very unlucky not to score himself, and down this left hand side, whether it be in this inside position, almost playing like a defensive midfielder, maybe chipping some balls into the box, playing them down the line, makes great decisions. Also is quite happy to burn himself, just throw himself out here on the overlap to help Tuneki, or even just get him, just double up with Tuneki to help his job be a bit easier if he wants to take the line or come inside. And you can tell he plays really, really well with those types of tricky wingers, and it was great. I thought Saracchi played an absolutely fantastic match in this one alongside Callum McGregor. When it comes to the contribution of Engels and McCowan, I'm hearing a lot of negatives about it from just social media and everything in the post-match, post-mortem as it were. But this kind of vertical style midfield that we had, where McGregor was clearly the deeper of the three, McCowan the higher, and Engels had a bit of, freedom, a bit of agency to maybe go around the pitch a little bit more, with McGregor also having the same. I thought it was a real breath of fresh air. The one disappointment I do have with this is that we didn't see it as being Engels and Negren, and we'll maybe get onto that later in the match, because really, for all intents and purposes, McCowan was phenomenal in the first half. When we signed McCowan, and even when we played against McCowan when he was at Dundee, I used to call him the Scottish Hatate. And I think in this game you can really see why. He was really high energy, really good in tight spaces, and his range of passing, like, he is an attacking midfielder, Luke McCowan. There's no mistaking it. The same way that Iheanacho is a striker. You know, you really get an attacking midfielder presence from Luke McCowan, and I thought we really benefited from that in the first half especially. And yeah, it was a lot of huffing and puffing, but it really went nowhere for the most part, didn't it? And we came out for the second half, and they've made a change. They'd already made a change in the first half. McGrath had to come off for Campbell, and Chaiwa had to come off for Cadden. And I'm pretty sure Mulligan went in the midfield at this point, but maybe not. Maybe that's a bit more of a wee bit of a change of shape potentially. I didn't study Hibs that closely second half to see where Cadden went and the repercussions of it all. But in the second half we didn't change anything, and I thought that was brilliant because we were in a real tempo, we were creating chances. There was a great harmony between really the whole team. You know, I think the right hand side, every time we come down here, we look good, we were creating chances, we're getting in and behind. When we went down the left, to be honest with you, Taneke against Red Star and in this game, I think, you know, like the furore around him signing is kind of, you know, reality's kind of kicked in a little bit. He's a good player, don't get me wrong. I'm not like naysaying or backtracking on any of the positives around Taneke, but he does have a ceiling right now. He's still been playing at a certain level, and we need him to kind of get better. He's clearly got great raw materials, raw minerals. He suits the team well. He's been a breath of fresh air. He's been the only player that plays like him in the team, and we've greatly needed it. But against So Young-woo and against Josh Mulligan, he's had to really fight extra hard for those yards and for those chances to be created down his side, whether it be for crosses or for shots. And, you know, like, we persevered with him in the second half. We kept him on quite a lot. I would have tried my best to keep everyone on the pitch for as long as possible. Now, I know Iheanacho is the first sub. He comes off for James Forrest, and we moved Ralston Maeda through the middle. And, do you know, see, as soon as this substitution happened, I just thought this isn't going to work out too well, because Dyson's not really been clicking through the middle anyway, and Hibs had absolutely just killed this centre space, you know. So what chances are we hoping to make for Dyson? It's flash balls across the box for wee sneaky poacher tap-ins, because we're not going to get space in and behind. Johnny Kenny's on the bench, you know, we'll obviously see him later, but I found that very confusing and bemusing, I suppose. And then we take off Engels for Negren. Now, again, I'll say at this point in the game, I thought we had a good tempo and a good flow. We're at the 67th minute. Iheanacho, if he's not got much more in him at that point, fine, that's kind of acceptable. But Engels should be locked and loaded and ready to go for this one. And I think taking him out of the game at this point was a mistake, to be honest with you. I think Negren is one of my favourite players so far this year. I don't think he necessarily takes the wheels off the whatever. He's not the one that makes the wheels fall off, whatever that expression is supposed to be really in this. But I do think Forrest takes a little bit away from what we had with Dyson through the centre, and I think Dyson takes a little bit of what we had with Iheanacho through the centre. And with Hibs just getting deeper and narrower the whole way the game is going on, it's just becoming extra hard to find whoever the striker is, and we're resorting more to guys like McGregor, or Bernardo when he comes on, shots from the edge of the box and that sort of thing. And yeah, we do create a few chances in and behind and that sort of thing, but as I say, ultimately I feel that as soon as we took off Iheanacho and Engels, a real big bit of wind dropped out of our sails. We were still pushing forward, we were still dominating, we were still attacking, we were still knocking at the door. McCowan was still doing this attacking left midfield position, and Negren was doing what Negren does, which is very similar but on the right hand side, but is like quite quick and quite happy to drop into deeper areas to receive the ball and maybe even cover for McGregor if he was going further on and beyond. And then not too long after that, we make a triple substitution where McCowan, Tuneke and Ralston Maeda come off, and we get Balikwisha coming in left wing, Johnny Kenny through the middle, and Paulo Bernardo coming on. Now, this is where my kind of hopes of the game going in our favour kind of turned and changed, right? Because I'm thinking, number one, you know, Hibs are deep and narrow, they're standing off of us. Balikwisha, I think, feels a bit, and he did when he came on in this game, feels more comfortable taking on players who are standing off you, and nothing really came from Balikwisha, to be honest with you, sadly. I was really hoping a bit more would have happened, but didn't really quite come. But with Bernardo, a lot of you guys are always harping on Bernardo would change the midfield, Bernardo this, Bernardo that, and I like him, he's fine, and we've spoke about him often enough. I thought when Bernardo was going to come on, quite honestly, we would have just pushed McGregor further up, but no. Bernardo fancies himself an attacking midfielder. A lot of you guys fancy him as an attacking midfielder out of there, and he tried to kind of fill that physical presence in this attack space, and he got a shot from the edge of the box, but ultimately, again, nothing really came from Bernardo. Johnny Kenny, on the other hand, really did pick up where Iheanacho left off, and it felt like, again, we had another striker to try and aim for. He gets 2 headers in this game that really, between one of them, Johnny Kenny should be finishing, especially the one where he heads it down, because that was played in from Scales. Can you imagine a Johnny Kenny goal with a Liam Scales assist? That would have been absolutely priceless, wouldn't it? One for the history books, if anything. And Kenny, I think, showed himself in a good light, good striker, picking up the right positions, getting on the end of things, but maybe a bit, I don't want to say ring rusty, you know, because he's still training and stuff like that, but he hasn't been playing much. He's not had many minutes. He was getting into the team a little bit, and then for the last 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks with international break, I can't remember exactly, he's not really been in and around the building anymore in terms of the first team in the matchday squad, and maybe that was the difference really between those balls not hitting the back of the net. And if we look at the team that's finished this match, we've had a good use of the squad in this game, and I think really everyone that played in this match or were featured in the game did play well overall, and I think that we created so many nice chances, and the midfield was like a breath of fresh air. The main thing with McGregor, particularly with the midfield that started, if I can go backwards to go forwards for a moment here, I kind of mentioned this earlier in the video, I think, I'm pretty sure, but the thing I really liked about the way the midfield panned out is that because of the rotations of McGregor, because of the positioning of McCowan, and the energy and the willpower of Engels to kind of go everywhere in the first half especially, we really controlled the middle of the pitch. And this is territory that I, as a football coach, football person, whatever, love a dominant team to really own. If you can own this area of the pitch, you're going to create chances at will, and we've seen that today. And Hibs, that's kind of part of the reason I'm saying they played really bad, because we dominated this area of the pitch, but it's not really because we had much of a fight on our hands. Like, Hibs just retreated. Like, there's very often periods in this game where, if you look at where the Hibs players are, there is like 5 of them on the edge of the box, like as a little group there. The back 3, 2 of the midfielders. You'll have a left back and a right back not too far away, as well as, this is Cadden, but in the first half it'd have been McGrath or Chaiwa or whatever. There wasn't much competition in this area, but because McGregor was free to roam through this area, McCowan was always keeping the defence on the back foot, and you know, he was happy to drop into pockets and link up play. And Engels, like I say, was dovetailing and just kind of being the mortar in between everything. We could really control this area of the pitch. We could go down the left very effectively. If it didn't work out, this changed the point of attack thing. Didn't need to go all the way back to Schmeichel. You know, we could just actually do it in an attack sense, really high up the pitch, and keep the squeeze on, keep the pressure on. And that was the most, that was the highlight of the game for me in so many ways. And that's something we need to see improve and evolve in, because Iheanacho could have scored in this game, Kenny could have scored, but I think we're going to look at these last 2 games in a month or two, and we're going to look at 2 points that Hibs dropped and 2 points at Red Star dropped as being massive. We're now not top of the table, by the way. I did tell you on Friday, stop talking about Rangers and thinking that we're fine because we're miles ahead of them. Hearts is the team we need to stay ahead of. We've been saying it on this channel since the 27th of May, I'm pretty sure it is, and you know, we're now no longer top. But part of the problem we've had before this little sequence of matches is that we've not really been creating much chances. We've been really one-dimensional. We've been really easy to defend against, and really the goals that we've got have been like Hatate scoring from the edge of the box at Aberdeen, and penalties, and you know, Negren getting a nice, you know, like they've been cutting edge moves. We've not like steamrolled anyone this season, and we have really struggled to create lots of chances. But this game was quite different in that regard, and it's quite ironic that this is a game that we don't actually score any goals in. And if we look at the player ratings for this match, it's maybe a bit of a mixed bag. The highest performer on the day was probably so far, I was chatting about this with a few of you guys on the timeline on Twitter, maybe our player of the season to this point, Liam Scales. A massive score of 79 out of 100 with no goal or assist or anything like that. 4 clearances, a tackle, a block. He did lose possession 10 times, but he's won enough of his due, and a lot of those possession losses will be clearances and that sort of thing. But 78 accurate passes for the big man. 15 of them got into the final third. 15 of them long passes into the opposition. Those balls that you've seen for Kenny, those ones going through the pitch or even switch of play. Only 7 missed passes for the big man, and he got 2 balls into the box, which one of them was obviously for Johnny Kenny. Right behind him was Marcello Saracchi, who, again, maybe could have got the Man of the Match award. I don't think we really care who did get it in this one, did we? He made 2 fouls, he had got his clean sheet, made a wee clearance. For a fullback, only lost possession 13 times is really, really good. 39 points in the passing category, get 84 passes in this game, which for a left back is pretty wild. This is Greg Taylor levels of output. 42 passes in the final third is incredible. Only 6 passes missed is wild. 1 big chance missed, 3 attempted assists, and this guy is not taking corners and set pieces. Great output from Saracchi here. 12 balls into the box, and he won a dribble as well. Guy was an absolute standout on the pitch, and yeah, the ratings I think really back him up quite well. Ralston was just a smidgen behind him. I wonder where he got all of his points from, because he definitely wasn't, well, I was going to say he definitely wasn't as dominant on the ball, but Ralston got 109 passes in this game. Wow, 41 of them in the final third. He missed 8 in total, 17 possession loss, but he did win 10, so it's maybe a little bit better with the increase in the volume that he's at least reconciled some of that somewhere. He got 1 dribble, 1, and he played 10 balls into the box. Good shift from Ralston, by the way, on the DL, on the quiet. Vickers brought in a 60, which is good for the big man. Again, 108 points for Vickers. So it was much more of Vickers to Ralston, wasn't it, than Vickers to McGregor. And I don't know if that was maybe a wee cheat code that they've just done us with there. 96 passes for McGregor, so maybe not entirely. McGregor gets a 64 in this game. He gets 2 shots on goal, 3 balls played into the box, which is surprisingly high for McGregor. This season, 38 accurate final third passes, which is quite close to 50%. And for McGregor, that is, I don't know if it's quite a season high, but it's definitely on the 90 percentiles of where he operates. And in the front line, Taneki did okay, brought in a 50 out of 100 point score, which for 41 passes, 26 of them in the final third, 4 balls into the box is pretty good going. Didn't win enough duels is probably what we would say here. Nice interception that he's picked up. And if he got a goal or an assist, that would have been an 85 pointer or something that would have been pretty solid. Ralston Maeda gets some all-around points in this game as well. Only lost possession 6 times, which again is really good for Dyson if he's on the wide areas. 16 final third passes out of 30 total passes, so 50% of his balls are in the final third. 2 big chances missed for Dyson in this one. Maybe a tiny bit on the harsh side, but he definitely, will be looking at some of those chances again twice, won't he? Iheanacho, I wonder how many big chances missed he got accredited with. 2 as well. 1 shot on goal, a few passes and stuff, which is fine, but yeah, much more of the striker's performance overall. Luke McCowan, if we can have a wee peek at his numbers for a second, see if there's anything interesting in here. 15 points in the passing category. 42, 20 of them in total were in the final third. It's pretty good going. 2 attempted assists and a big chance created. Should have had an assist in this game, all things being equal. And Arnie Engels, again, I think there was an offside that maybe stopped him getting a goal in this game. 2 tackles won, was fouled twice himself. The duels won and lost is the wrong way round, isn't it, for a guy that wants to be an ever-present in our midfield. Passing stats are okay without really being exceptional. Those long balls, there was only a few of them. I think we would have wanted a few more. And he played 10 balls into the box. Big chance missed for Arnie as well. Should have. His big chance missed is, I really willed him to score that goal, and sadly he didn't. But yeah, it's maybe a wee bit on the harsh side, but statistics are statistics, so it is a big chance missed. Negren off the bench, played 23 minutes and got the same contribution as Ralston Maeda, as Luke McCowan, more than Engels, not far off the same as Tuneki. What did our boy Ben Negren do? 7 balls into the box. He did take some set pieces. A lot of his passes were in the final third. He got 1 attempted assist. He won 1 duel, didn't lose any. And he won a free kick. He was fouled, so there you go. Paulo Bernardo didn't really have much time to shine, but got a shot on target, played a ball into the box. And I say wasn't really on the ball much, was he? To really influence the game or impact things. And Jimmy and Kenny is kind of whatever, but we'll see what Kenny gets for BCMs. He got 2, 1 shot on target. So that's 5 big chances missed we had in this game, I think I've counted. I wonder if McGregor gets one. He had a few shots. He didn't, did he? So yeah, 5 big chances missed by my count. Balikwisha made 5 passes, lost possession twice, and that's like it. Just a kind of... Again, just a non-contribution, a non-event. Now, before the game, I was really hoping Arnie Engels was going to step up and have a massive game and really start to break through. And I don't think he was that far away. You know, I think like if he did score that chance, there was a chance in the first half he was unlucky with as well. And a few of the crosses he made could have turned into assists. It could have been a very different game for Engels. Hopefully the manager perseveres with him, and maybe the Motherwell game. I don't think we're going to expect to see him play Braga with Hatate getting rested as well as Negren. Feels like that kind of works itself out, doesn't it? As well as the front three here, feels very much like that will be the front three that plays against Braga at home. But as we've seen, how is the game management of that front three? Iheanacho to Maeda at centre forward does feel like we're losing a little bit of direction, a little bit. Feels like that arrowhead gets kind of blunted at the top of the triangle, doesn't it? In a way, from that to that, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, Kairat, we couldn't score. Red Star, we couldn't score enough. And Hibs, we couldn't score. This is a theme, and I'm all up for Iheanacho being brilliant and working out for us. Same with Tuneke. Really waiting for Balikwisha to turn up as well, and Maeda to get himself back together. But this is really the taking of your medicine point of not reinforcing the attack the way we should have, because we are just missing. Like, again, I look at the Red Star game and I look at this one, and the number one thing I think in terms of easy wins is, like, with Red Star, if we've got a centre back that can get on, like Carter Vickers is unlucky with his chance. You could say maybe Kenny. We've got the chances. We're just missing like somebody that can just go into the box and put chances away. An absolute header of the ball. And fair enough, Kenny's coming from the bench, and Carter Vickers is a set piece thing. Sometimes we can't always get scales on the end of crosses, but it does feel that those set piece balls, those dead balls that in these tight games can be and should be the difference, we just don't even have them, So if we're huffing and puffing and creating chances, if they don't quite fall for us, they don't quite hit the back of the net, then we're quite easy to defend against, because it just all becomes about like stifling their chances, killing the territory, making the pitch in the centre really hard to actually get a shot on target away from. And let's say Hibs were one of the most minging teams that we've played in very recent times, had virtually zero attacking threat, and like honestly just had a rave on the edge of the box essentially for the most part. But I think really it was what I wanted it to be. Engels. I think the big winner of this game is Callum McGregor. I think he was back to his old self. I was saying he's been hypnotised or something like that over the last week or two. I felt like he was really awake in this game. He kind of realised, I'm Callum McGregor. I can run through the middle of the pitch. I can play those passes. I can strike fear into the opposition. And he was a big win for me. I think Saracchi is not too far behind him. And I really do think McCowan was very, very good in this game. And I'm very surprised at the strays that Engels and McCowan are catching in the aftermath. Let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section down below. On screen are now some other stuff that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. We've got a big week of content ahead with the Europa League on the horizon, as well as now, like I mentioned, we're not top of the table. So this next game against Motherwell, and there's a lot to get stuck into in this coming week. If you did enjoy the content, please hit subscribe for more. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hail, hail, Moan the Hoops.